Bruce Lee died in a terrible accident on July 20th, 1973. He was 32 years old. He was an action hero, a culture icon, and a legendary martial artist who was about to become a big star. It was a huge shock. I mean, how is that possible? The legal records from the court that looked into Bruce Lee's death are in this envelope. No one knew what would happen when the garage door creaked open. But what they found on Bruce Lee's land made no one say a word. It wasn't just a bunch of cars. It was a declaration on wheels, a plan for a man who went beyond movies, art, and battle. In the oily quiet, there was a story frozen in time that held meanings of goal-setting, identity, and belonging. Some things were really valuable. Some were really strange. All of that was a picture of Bruce Lee. The world was about to see what he had really left behind for the first time since he died so suddenly. How about we take a better look? The day the door finally opened. When Bruce Lee died on July 20th, 1973, it shocked people all over the world. He died at the height of his powers, just weeks before Enter the Dragon came out. He was only 32 years old. Right away, there was a media frenzy, probes, and sadness from fans all over the world. But while everyone was talking about ideas and autopsies, his garage stayed a secret, a place that not many people thought would hold secrets that would soon leave everyone speechless. The garage was locked for years, first out of respect, and then because the law said it had to be. Since Linda Lee was in charge of the estate and had to deal with cases, interviews, and her own grief, the garage was forgotten and held in high regard. A few years later, when the house was getting ready to be sold, the heavy garage door was finally moved by a team of people whose job it was to make a list of the estate's belongings. Even people who knew him well were shocked by what they found. A red 1972 Mercedes-Benz 350 SL was in the middle of the lot, gathering dust under a tarp that barely covered the car. It still gave off an air of controlled power. A high-end European car wasn't just a way to get around, it was a sign of wealth. Bruce Lee's garage showed that he knew how important image was in Hollywood, where Asian stars are still being slowly accepted. The car wasn't just a nice-to-have, it was a sign of success. This was a sign of standing for Lee when he and his family moved back to Hong Kong right before he died. Maybe to tell him that he had done something that not many people had done before, did well in Hollywood as an Asian performer. There were boxes parked next to the Mercedes. Some were full of martial arts gear, and others were stacked with boxes that Bruce had written his own names on. Personal effects, training mods, and scripts. There was even a green box that said Rolls RR on it. It was later found to have letters from the dealership and payment records inside. People who were there got a rare, unvarnished look at Bruce Lee in the garage. Not the screen icon, but the man who was off-center. The things had been frozen like relics since he died, waiting to be found again. It wasn't just a garage, it was a picture of myself made of speed, sweat, and steel. The Mercedes as well. The thing's appearance wasn't just private, it was also political. Before Lee got his big break, being seen in this kind of car said something that Hollywood didn't want to say. Bruce Lee fit in, completely, in public, without a doubt. Seen in Hong Kong? It was a move for power. That was just the start of what they found. Red Thunder, Bruce Lee's 1972 Mercedes-Benz 350 SL. The red 1972 Mercedes-Benz 350 SL popped out like a beacon in Bruce Lee's dusty garage. The car was low, stylish, and clearly European. It was Lee's pride, and he didn't buy it on a whim. Bruce wanted to send a message, and even though it wasn't the most fancy car in Hollywood, that was the point. Status, style, and most of all, a sense of connection. The 350 SL wasn't about how much power it had. Like Lee himself, it was about balance. The car was in control. It had a 4.5-liter V8 engine and a body that was made to be clean and precise. That showed how much he cared about success and discipline. In the early 1970s, it wasn't just a matter of style for an Asian actor who was just starting out to drive a German luxury convertible. It was a sentence. There was no way Bruce Lee could have been in Hollywood. He had shown up and was going to stay. Picture from the set of Enter the Dragon show him walking out of the SL with the same cool air of separation he had on screen. Friends remember him driving along Sunset Boulevard late at night with the top down and his aviators on. A close friend and co-worker, Danny Anasanto, once said, Bruce didn't just drive that car, he moved with it. It became a part of him. When the garage door was opened after he died, the car was in surprisingly good shape. The leather was broken, but still whole. Bruce's favorite glasses were still on the dash. 2 days before he died, on July 18, 1973, 2 folded papers from the California DMV and a receipt from a LA car wash were found in his glove box. It wasn't something for show. It looked like it had been loved and used a lot. It was clear that this car had been used often. Bruce was very proud of it. But the Mercedes showed more about Bruce Lee than just its past and technical details. This car was part of his security in a field where image was everything. He was a star, not just a martial artist, and the Mercedes helped him show that. Hollywood tried to cast him in the part of the humble, subservient Asian man over and over again, but this made him different. He wouldn't let limits define him. He picked a car that would look good on both Sunset Strip and Mulholland Drive. A car that got people's attention when it was parked outside of Golden Harvest Studios or Chateau Marmont. Something that said, "I belong here, I'm not a guest." The car told the story of a Hollywood star when he went back to Hong Kong. The message was still clear to the people who found the car after he was dead. No matter what was in Bruce Lee's shed, nothing showed what he believed. He wants to be known, just like the red Mercedes. In his own time, though, Bruce Lee had his sights set on other cars that would make him wealthy. And Steve McQueen was the best person to look up to when it came to cars. The Porsche that got away. Bruce Lee liked to act in many areas, not just martial arts. He was interested in tools that required discipline, like cars that were built with the same level of accuracy he expected from his own body. It's not a surprise that Bruce Lee became very interested in a Porsche 911S Targa in early 1973. He specifically wanted a silver 1968 model that was fast, sleek, and famously driven by Steve McQueen. Linda Lee says Bruce had always liked how cool McQueen seemed, but he didn't want to be like him. He wanted to be seen as on the same level as him. In Hollywood, the car you drove was important. The Porsche was more than just fast. There was a message and a link between a martial arts star and American movie royalty. However, Lee cared about that Porsche and longed for it for months. The story goes that Lee told McQueen about his desire. Who said they'd take him on a spin-up Mulholland Drive? The test drive that came next wasn't like any other. For the tight turns and steep drops, McQueen pushed the car hard. He was a trained amateur racer. He was said to have downshifted strongly, hugged blind corners, and smiled the whole time. Bruce, who is generally calm, wasn't amused. He is said to have said that he would kill McQueen and never drive with him again at one point. But McQueen's driving lesson was for a reason. The Porsche 911S Targa was a powerful car. To drive it, you had to know what you were doing, and it looks like McQueen didn't have much faith in his friend's driving skills. When he got back to his shed, the moment seemed to live on in the paper. The estate managers found a one-page request to Beverly Hills Porsche Audi for a 911S Targa in a cardboard box labeled Auto. There was also a handwritten note attached to the request. It's too stiff for the streets of Los Angeles. It was just signed B. It was typical Bruce, short, useful, and honest. He had his eyes on the car for months, but when he finally got to drive it, it didn't live up to his expectations. Or rather, McQueen turned him off. He was still somewhat interested in the Porsche, though. A tiny model of the exact car was stored in a drawer next to his desk. As a souvenir? As a reminder? No one knows. What wasn't in this story makes it even more interesting. Bruce did buy a Porsche in the end, but there was no Porsche in the garage when he was found dead. There were no title papers or service logs. There was only the application, the toy copy, and the story. It's possible that it was sold before the move to Hong Kong. It's possible that his dream car didn't live up to his hopes. Fans who went into the garage trying to find answers came out with only pieces of information and a little sadness. But what the episode showed about Bruce Lee stayed with people. He wasn't after flashy things. He looked for control, meaning, and purpose in everything, from theory to choreography to horsepower. Even though the Porsche was the ultimate power symbol, it couldn't take the place of his Mercedes-Benz. I left everything in there. The note made by hand. Bruce Lee's shop didn't just have metal, leather, and chrome things. Some finds were just heavy and didn't have any power. In the years after he died, tools, plans, and papers about cars were found. but there was one thing that made everyone speechless. A small, grease-stained index card stuck to the corkboard above his desk. It just said, "I left it all behind in there," in faded blue ink. Even though there was no name, date, or clear background, Bruce's handwriting was clearly there. There has been more talk about those 6 words, written quickly in capital letters, than about anything else found in the garage. Was it a figure of speech? A clear instruction? A vague reflection? There were part number lists, timing notes, and diagrams for training tools next to the card. Engine parts, jump ropes, focus pads, and a marked-up script for Game of Death are on the shelf below it. Some think the note was about his cars, which used to be status symbols for him, but he was ready to give them up. Others think it had something to do with his custom-made workout gear, some of which he came up with himself. Thoughtfully, it might have been a quiet surrender or a moment to think about things. Bruce may have been realizing that all the things he had worked for, discipline, legacy, and perfection, were not in plain sight, but in this private, cluttered area. I didn't just store things in the garage. It's the last place he had full power over. People who knew him well thought the note was a message to someone special, like Linda, his kids, or even himself in the future. "I left everything in there. Sorry didn't sound like it. It sounded like freedom." There were sketches of new training gear next to the card, which added to the mystery. Some that looked like resistance devices that most people wouldn't see again for many years. Here is an unfinished, detailed outline of a new martial arts program that goes under those. It wasn't a letter. It wasn't written in a book. People put it up in Bruce Lee's only room that was really his own, which was full of cars, tools, and ideas. It was a statement. The things he built. The things he didn't play with. That one note was the only thing in Bruce Lee's garage that really stood out. Neither a car nor a gun. A man who always said more with less said this in just 6 words. The note, which was found in the strangest place, made everyone stunned, even though he was known for his philosophical thoughts. Bruce Lee probably had a stronger link to his garage and cars than anyone first thought. All you have are